Behold, the Skiajati, a glorious Nikana that you receive as part of the sacrifice quest. This elegant blade has a special passive that causes you to stealth whenever you perform a finisher, and it also comes with 2 Umbra polarities. As these Umbra polarities can't be added or re-added with Forma, I bet you're wondering whether you should keep them. But I think the more important part of this weapon is that stealth ability. The Umbra polarities are a red herring. They just happen to come with the weapon. Whether or not you should keep those polarities depends on what your build is going to be like, right? Well, a good build should play to a weapon's strengths, otherwise you won't have any reason to choose it over another. And Nikanas in general are not the strongest types of melee weapons, with few forced procs in their stances and relatively low range, so if you build this weapon like you'd build most other melee weapons, you won't get a lot out of it. The situation where the sacrificial set mods are good is not a situation where this weapon is particularly good. Full disclosure, you'll notice that my sacrificial mods are not ranked up yet, and that's because I'm uncertain that they're ever truly worthwhile. We're talking about theory here. Sacrificial pressure is always worse than prime pressure point, even at max rank with its set bonus active, so the only benefit of the set would be from Sacrificial Steel, which increases crit chance and is always better than True Steel, its normal counterpart, even if it's not in its set. This can be strong with Blood Rush, because Blood Rush scales your crit chance based on your total modded crit chance, so Sacrificial Steel at max rank is effectively doubling how fast Blood Rush ramps up your crits. That could imaginably be very powerful, but this weapon is never going to be a crit monster compared to other available options. And you can indeed do what I just described on other weapons. With enough Forma, you will have room for Sacrificial Steel on weapons with much better stats than this one has. Think of it another way. Looking just at the stats of this weapon outside of the context of its polarities, if this weapon didn't have those Umbra polarities, would you want to make a hardcore scaling crit-focused hybrid build for this weapon in particular? Probably not. Its stats suggest a more status-focused build at the very least, and my overall point is that its passive pushes you exactly in the opposite direction, suggesting a finisher-focused build that doesn't even use combo counter scaling mods. Something like this. Note that you only need to remove one of the 2 Umbra polarities to make this build, as you saw in the polarities before, and also note that a few of these mods are not fully necessary. A finisher build is all about stacking upsides, rather than the damage multiplier stacking that hybrid builds are known for. It's important to do enough damage, yeah, but status and crit stats are not effective ways to increase melee finisher damage since you're focusing your damage into just 1 or 2 hits on most types of weapons, and the things that ramp crit and status the most effectively on melee weapons rely on the combo counter, which are not exactly going to be stacking up when 1s and 2s. Once we have some nice damage boosts from prime pressure point and Buzzkill, which you may or may not know multiplies with base damage the same way that an elemental mod would, so it's a lot like a 90% elemental. Our goal is to add attack speed. We want as much attack speed as possible to increase our finisher animation speed. For some reason, Berserker doesn't work for this, even though Fury and Prime Fury and Gladiator Vice do, but I still included Berserker to speed up Tranquil Cleave's pause combo. That's how you saw me do a finisher at the beginning of the video. This forces a finisher at the end, so if you do this combo right here, you do a finisher at the end, which allows you to stealth on command even without energy or another way to open enemies to finishers. Because of all this attack speed, you can execute that whole combo in just a few seconds. Body count, and you can use Drifting Contact instead, accumulates combo ticks so that we can eventually one-shot even very high-level enemies, and an unranked life strike allows us to channel during a finisher to get a full heal. We have plenty of time to swap to our melee weapon and allow channeling because we're gonna be stealthed. I mentioned energy for opening enemies to finishers, and that's where I think this weapon is strongest. I use it with my Equinox's energy transfer build here. This is a build that's designed to accumulate damage for a huge maim while in Knight form using energy transfer, which lets you swap forms and keep your charge, and then you can use your defensive abilities in Knight form to keep you alive while you accumulate that damage. I spam rest and finishers if I'm going to stay out of the line of fire and make sure I don't die while I'm charging up. A lot of people have talked about using this type of build, this sort of finisher type of build for the Skiajati on frames like Ashe, but I don't feel it adds much value there because Ashe already has the ability to stealth. You don't really need an additional stealth ability on Ashe in particular. It doesn't add anything new to his kit. It's thematic, it's definitely thematic, and I understand the appeal, but it doesn't add any new power to his kit. The coolest idea I've heard for this type of build is Banshee, who can open nearby enemies to finishers using silence as she moves through them. Banshee is very, very squishy and would be thrilled to have some stealth while she uses her extremely powerful abilities. For that use case, and perhaps in general, especially if you don't have Gladiator Vice, which is rare and expensive, Dispatch Overdrive would be an awesome choice for some epic speed boosts to get from target to target faster. But listen, you can make the build that I'm suggesting you use without removing even one of the Umbra polarities like I did if you want to, and you could cut half of the mods and still do something very similar. So if you're really worried about it, sure, keep the polarities, I understand. I hope I helped you decide by describing what they represent. Ultimately, I would say that Umbra polarities represent false complexity, becoming irrelevant if you intend to make a full build in all but the most extreme cases, but that's a topic for another time and applies more to the Umbral Warframe set mods than it does to the Sacrificial mods. I've been Zandy, and you've been watching YouTube. Let's do this again sometime, shall we?